Hello, hockey fans. This is episode 62 of the Clappercast. This is September 23rd. I'm Burke, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Sean. Sean, what's going on?
Oh, just being glad that I'm not Nikita Kucherov in the first period of last night's game because that was rough for him. Holy crap!
Yeah, he took quite the beating in the first there, but his team managed to do okay.
Yeah,
Um,
they
so
they rallied around him.
so now we're 2 games into the Stanley Cup Finals here. The series is tied 1-1. Thoughts so far?
This is about as close and as I thought it would be. That both teams are really battling hard right now. It's very fast paced, very chippy hockey. It's a lot more physical than I would have expected from them. But then again, I also didn't realize that both of these teams were like top 10 or top 5 in hits per game overall. So maybe it's not a surprise that it's actually a really physical series.
Yeah, I saw a graphic and it's had the most physical teams in the bubble, and 4 out of the top 5 were conference final teams, with the kind of outlier being the New York Rangers. I think they were third or fourth. But this year's playoffs, it seems that physicality is kind of playing a huge role in the game.
Playoff hockey.
Yeah, it's crazy in game in last night's game. Uh, there was like 101 hits. With like pretty much a 50-50
Okay.
split.
Okay, who had to ruin it and go get the 101st hit?
I don't know. I have to go into the game log and give someone some serious
Someone's getting scratched.
tongue lashing for ruining it. Face-offs 49 to 51%. Penalty minutes were pretty close. Blocks were one off for each other. Shots on goal were within two. So despite Tampa taking a 3-0 lead in the first period, it was a close game after that third.
Yeah, yeah.
Dallas kind of pushed back. They had a really rough first period where they took some dumb penalties and Tampa Bay got some power play goals. We saw just how good their power play can be. I mean, the first power play, it looked like they had nothing going, and then they just got possession back and scored. It was just like
Yeah,
at
it
will
clicked.
almost.
Like you said, that first power play, they were invisible.
Yeah, it looked like they were going to get killed off, and then they just got possession and threw one at the net, basically. And
That's basically the
yeah,
game-breaking abilities of Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman. They
yeah,
can they can change the game immediately just by finding like chemistry on one shift, finding like one of those cross seam passes that work.
yeah. I'm just looking at the notes here that are for game one, and there's 106 hits. It's 50 and 56 in favor of the
That
Lightning,
is
which is kind of
crazy.
surprising
Yeah.
for me.
So I feel like if we manage to hit Game 7 in this series, that the only player left is going to be one of those skeletons that you use in classrooms because everyone else is going to be hurt. They'll just have to fill the bench with like an emergency skeleton or something.
Physical for sure. I mean, game one, the Stars kind of came out buzzing. Um, Lightning tied it up going into the second period, and then it was kind of all Stars, at least on the score sheet. Um, so yeah, I mean, and then in game two, it was kind of all Lightning early, and then Dallas tried to push back and just couldn't quite come back in time.
It almost looked like there was going to be a bit of a TSN turning point at that goal that got called back. I can't remember who scored it for
Oh yeah,
Tampa
the
Bay, but
offside.
the offside, I think it was Verhage, was either offside or scored it. But it looked like there was going to be a bit of a momentum swing off of that. But Tampa Bay held on.
Was that Coleman? I think Coleman was out there. I don't know. He might have been offside, but yeah, it was
Someone
definitely.
was offside. Someone's getting a paddling.
I mean, I liked that in Dallas's game though. Is that even though they were down 3-0 after the first period, that they were fighting to go in there, like they were fighting to come back and
Yeah,
just not giving up. And
yeah.
I think that
And they had some good chances. I'm thinking specifically of that one breakaway Andrew Cogliano created for himself, just splitting the D right up the middle, and had a really good shot up high on Vasilevsky, but couldn't quite beat him.
yeah, Jamie Benn had a chance right in the slot where he just missed. Like it was just like half
Yeah,
an inch or
just
something.
just a bit off.
So they were close. Like, and then Tyler Seguin was actually putting some shots on net. He had a few that he let rip, and I don't know where he was aiming, but he just skied it. But He was actually kind of looked like he was getting a little bit. He was dialing it in as the game went on. His shooting was getting a bit better.
That'll be good for Dallas.
But he is so snake bitten, Tyler Seguin. Like, he cannot buy a goal right now.
He can't. I think I remember the broadcast doing a quick feature on basically that, and showing he's at least contributing in other ways, at least like physically and being engaged with the game, but he just cannot find that score sheet.
No, there was that one where it was kind of that rebound opportunity that he had, and Vasilevsky just robbed him. It was a great save. And then on the other side, in Game 1, you had Yanni Gourde score that weirdo bounce-a-roo goal where it was a shot from the point. I think it might have been Hedman. And then Hudobin saved it, kicked it to the corner, but I guess his angle was... You can't fault him for it. He did what he was supposed to do, put the rebound into the corner, but it just happened to bank off of Gourde's skate and then off of Hudobin and in. It was a really weird one.
Yeah.
And then even the defender, like I think it was Rupe Hintz, had Gourde all tied up. Like there's nothing else he could have done except for flatten the guy and put him on the ice. It was just a weird bounce. I mean, what's that Venstedt PDO? Basically like puck luck. Tampa had that in that goal at least. So just some weird bounces. And also the boards have been quite lively behind the goalie.
Yeah, so the boards at Edmonton's new arena have kind of found their reputation as being a bit active. I think that was something they were trying to do, or that they realized very early, but there's always been a little bit more activity off the end boards in Edmonton.
Yeah, there's been some crazy bounces where the puck's like looks like it's going to ring around the boards behind the net and it just bounces right out into the slot. There's been a few goalies that have caught themselves trying to go play the puck and have had to kind of scramble in front.
Get their ankles broken by the boards.
There was a couple of those. I can't remember if it was in Game 1 or Game 2, but the puck came right out in front of the net, basically on a dump in. So you see that Sedin play where they go for that long dump in where it bounces right onto the slot. Teams, I don't know if they're trying to do that, but it looks like, they might be experimenting a bit with that.
I mean, Tampa would do well by having that, because they could do that old Nicholas Lidstrom play where he would just shoot it hard off the end boards at Joe Louis. It would bounce right out into the slot for Holmstrom or whoever was in front to slap it in.
You've seen a lot of teams have doing that high flip play, trying to catch the defender, like either doing a crossover or like turning, pivoting to go backwards and just blowing by the guy. A lot of teams have been using this
that's a good one
off-season.
as the game speeds up. Like that's a really good play to use as the game speeds up, because you're going to have those wingers, those forwards, those smaller forwards who can just blow by a defenseman who's caught flat-footed. And it's sometimes so hard to go through the defense or off the boards because they're going to stop the puck. So why not try and go over?
Yeah,
I think I joked about that in the Vegas series, where it's like if you can't go through them, just go over it. But it's kind of true. It's a risky play because you kind of lose a bit of control over the puck. You never know where it's going to bounce or land. But why not? Once in a while it works.
Has there been any standout players so far in your mind?
In Game 2, I think Rupe Hintz was doing really well. I think he missed a bunch of Game 1. I think he got hurt or he missed a bit of the game, but Game 2 he was flying. Like, he was engaged everywhere. He was blocking shots. He didn't find the score sheet, but it's the type of player you're looking for from a player like Hintz for you.
He's got 1 assist so far in the series. John Klingberg, he's been all over the place. He's got 3 assists already. He's been really, really active in the play. Yeah, making some great plays for like deflection goals and things. And I think Dallas is playing really well on their blue line in the offensive zone. Like they're just able to skate around and play the puck so well. It's fun to watch. And then for Tampa Bay, I don't know. I mean, I think Blake Coleman is kind of standing out to me. He just the amount of hustle he puts in every shift, and he'll take a hit to make a play, and he's all over the place. He's crashing the net. He's just driving to the net. He's all over the place. I don't think he's got any I think he's got maybe one assist,
Yeah.
2 assists so far.
He's got an assist.
He's got 2.
Now, also, to add on to Coleman there, for someone who's playing 12, 13 minutes a night average in those 2 games, that's pretty impressive if he's making that much of an impact that you can always notice him when he's out there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a testament to the quality of his game over the last couple days here.
I would have guessed he would have had more ice time than that, because just it seems like he's out there all the
12
time.
minutes in game 1, 14, 12 in game 2, and 12 in game 1.
So he's got an assist on the Yanni Gord goal in game 1 and an assist on the Kevin Shattenkirk goal in game 2. So, making an impact.
Which is
He's
great
kind
for
of stood up
Tampa from their depth.
for me. How about for you? Anybody on Tampa that has kind of stood out?
I think it's just the dominance of Braden Point. He's been doing everything for them. Like, he's not just a scorer in the series. He's been engaged everywhere. I think he's blocking some shots. He doesn't shy away from being physical. He goes and plays at I think he goes and plays at like bumper position on the power play and in the offensive zone, where he's just kind of floating around and got his back to the play. He's getting beat up, but he's just making plays and he's finding his way into the slot and he's really contributing. And it's kind of an easy go-to answer for who's standing out. Oh, well, the best player on the team, but it's important to recognize when they're doing more than just scoring as well.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I don't think that's a cop out at all. Just he's having a good playoffs, but he's having a good series too. One thing I wanted to mention is the Pat Maroon shooting the puck at the Dallas bench.
Oh man.
That was in game 1 when Dallas was up, and it was the end of the second period, I believe. And so teams have the long change in the second period, and he shot it at the horn right at the Dallas bench. And it was so intentional. Like, you look at it and it's like it's not even like he was trying to put it off the boards or anything. He just like had a second, looked, and then shot it. And I think it went off Kivaranta's like visor, or
it
hit him in the head.
It hit Kivaranta.
And he got a 10-minute misconduct for that. And I just wanted to check and see if you agree with that, or if you had another thought on that.
Absolutely. No, was it just a misconduct, or did he get kicked out as well?
No, he sat for 10 and then he came out. Because I remember, because Tampa Bay looked a lot better when he wasn't playing. It was noticeable.
Going by their very quick, like, I think they outshot Dallas like 22-2 or something in the third period. So yeah.
Yeah, they came out.
But no, I absolutely
in the
agree.
Period.
I wouldn't have even been upset if they kicked Maroon out for that. He absolutely should have been penalized the way he did, because that's not something you want to just look over at the beginning of a long series. That's an incredibly unnecessary and unsportsmanlike move to fire the puck at the opposing team's bench. So you don't penalize him, and suddenly the refs have to do a lot harder to keep the game under control.
Yeah, I totally agree. He definitely was worthy of a 10-minute misconduct. On the broadcast, I think it was Craig Simpson was saying like he thought it should have been a minor penalty, only for the fact that it would penalize the team as well.
Oh, okay.
So that there would be a power play involved.
I see. Yeah, no, that's actually a fair point.
Because, I mean, normally you give a guy a 10-minute misconduct if you don't want to penalize the team, right? It's the player doing something dumb, which like
well, I mean,
like an example of this would be
dumb.
Antoine Roussel, right? So he got a couple dimes where it's basically like, let's get you out of the game essentially for 10 minutes. You just sit for a while, and it's not really
like
your
game
team
management
doing
penalty.
anything. So I kind of disagree. I think that with Craig Simpson on this, I think there was the right call. It wasn't a Tampa Bay thing. It was just a Patrick Maroon doing something stupid.
Yeah, I highly doubt that was a discussed thing on the bench where it was like someone was like trying to find a way to get under Dallas's skin, so Maroon goes and does that. No, I think he just went and did that out of his own frustration.
Yeah, and it makes more sense to have Maroon sit for a dumb thing that he did than to penalize the team for a thing at the horn where it was just one player doing something. There was nobody even else by him.
Yeah,
really.
this wasn't part of a scrum. This wasn't like a retaliatory play or anything. Like, it was just Patrick Maroon did that. So penalize him, get him sitting, and show Dallas that the game is under control. Don't make them have to take it into their own.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to what you think about the reffing so far. I think it's actually been done really well. They've kind of been letting them play a bit.
Yeah.
There's been a few ticky-tack calls here and there, but by and large, it seems like it's been even.
Yeah, so for a Stanley Cup final, there seems to be a lot of penalties being called, but I think that's just a testament to how chippy this series is getting, where it's like a lot of these calls aren't, stick infractions or little weird plays like that you get a lot in the regular season. It's like slashing, roughing, cross-checking, interference, like stuff like that for a lot of it. I think it's been handled fairly well so far, and I think especially with how Game 2 got chippy at the end of the second, where they went and handed out all those roughing and interference penalties in that one scrum
right
near the end of the period. There was no penalties in the third period. So whether or not nothing happened or that really kind of got the game back under control so the players got back into hockey instead of the physical side of it, I think they're doing a great job so far.
Yeah, me too.
Overall.
I think it's like Wes McCauley has been involved, and this is like his 8th in a row or something Stanley Cup Finals. Got Dan O'Rourke,
He's
Kelly
probably
Sutherland,
one of the best in the league. Yeah, so that's a really good crew for the league.
Steve Kazari as well has been involved. So also like veteran guys that are more prone to let them play, but call the things that need to be called. And it's interesting that you mentioned that dog pile. that was pretty funny with like Corey Perry, and I don't know who he was involved with, but like giving him like a horse collar, like had his bicep and forearm around the guy's neck, and then he looks at the ref and does the whole like, oh, I wasn't doing anything, and then he gets like slammed to the ice.
And then he's getting punched. You can see him like wiggling around on the ground.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny.
The intermission segment did an entire thing about understanding Corey Perry and just like analyzing that play and what he's doing.
Yeah, the big brain time is understanding Corey Perry and his impact to the game. I mean, not to downplay it, it's definitely a huge part of the game, and to try and get under people's skin. And he's making some plays. In Game 1, it looked like he was kind of struggling a bit, though. Like, he was, like, slamming into the boards and, like, missing some... He was catching edges and stuff, so I don't know if maybe he's got an injury. I know the reason he got bought out from Anaheim was that he had knee surgery finally. So I wonder if that maybe is bothering him again, and it's affecting his skating. I mean, hopefully he's not hurt, but it's the final, so most people are probably got something going on by now. But it's kind of fun to watch his antics as a kind of a more neutral fan right now. It's not against your team, so you don't have to. You're not as emotionally invested.
I don't have to get salty about it. I can just watch it and laugh at it and roll my eyes.
Yeah, exactly. It always gets me I didn't do anything, like that whole. What do you mean, ref?
Wasn't me. What was I doing?
and then there, you see the flip side of it, because there was a time when he lined up against Hedman, and Hedman just totally tripped him right before the puck was dropped, and Perry went down. But because it's Perry, there's no call. It's just, well, you probably earned that one, and they let it go. But it was so obviously
that's when the refs
a
let the
trip.
Players kind of handle it themselves.
Yeah. So again, I think the refs are doing a great job by, it is Corey Perry, so you don't need a call there. He's just trying to draw one.
With you having officiating experience, I feel more confident in saying I think the refs are doing a great job if I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my AAA Island Provincials experience, so super high end reffing.
Hell yeah.
And beer league, so yeah, I think it's doing really well. It looks like Steven Stamkos is getting closer to playing.
So yeah, they were kind of like hinting that he might have even been ready for Game 2. So I think he's up to like game time decision status now, where he's like out in the morning skates, or kind of like, oh, I guess he'll have to wait and see when the game starts if he's playing.
Yeah,
so
that was John Cooper's comment. Just pretty much like, come to the game and see, like, essentially, was his comment. So interesting to see if Stamkos gets in there, and how that changes the series. because like the Tampa Power Play is doing really well. The Tampa Pamper Play is doing really well. So if he gets in there, does that throw them off or does it make them better? It's kind of one of those things that can go either way.
Well, I mean, if they don't want to go and F around with their first power play unit that's seems to be clicking generally right now, they go and throw them on the second unit and give them, two weapons basically.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see what happens with the captain, if he makes his return or not.
So yeah, also before Game 2 started, the NHL had a little segment where they announced the remainder of the player award winners. They covered the Calder, the Ted Lindsay, the Norris, the Vezina, and the Hart Trophy. So we'll start with the Calder, and it was announced Cale Makar has won the Calder Trophy for the season. He beat Quinn Hughes, and it was actually a pretty definitive win for Makar, where he got like double the first place votes to Hughes. So the voters were clear in their favorites, in their preference in that one.
Yeah, I thought it would have been a bit closer, but Cale Makar almost doubling up, right?
Yeah, well, the like total point totals for the votes were fairly close, like within 100 or 2. But it was just that first place vote was so different between Makar and Hughes that it was clear where the preference was.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think either were deserving. They both had great seasons.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. After them, it kind of got interesting where the votes all went.
Some of the awards, there were some interesting votes. We'll touch on those ones in a minute. Then Leon Draisaitl won the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy, so he got both of them. Now, the Ted Lindsay, I think he was well deserving of for sure. Like, he was, what he did on this Edmonton team, he was basically the best player on a team that has Connor McDavid. That he stood up, he took charge of that team when McDavid was recovering and kind of easing his way back in, and he was the most outstanding player in the league. The Hart Trophy is a bit more contentious. I think he was deserving of it. He has some question marks on his play, especially his defensive play. And, Nathan MacKinnon and Artemi Panarin are both incredibly deserving after these seasons. But how do you feel about, especially the Hart Trophy, about Draisaitl getting those?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I was kind of on team, I don't know. I was split between Dry and McKinnon. But I mean, Ted Lindsay's voted on by the players, so that shows just how valuable all the other players in the league think that Dry is. So it's kind of hard to debate with the players, I guess, because I mean the mark against, I guess, McKinnon and Draisaitl is that they play with some pretty high-end players. More McKinnon, I guess, because Draisaitl kind of splits time around, but scores a lot on the power play. But Panarin, I mean, he's got like Ryan Strome that he plays with, so I don't know, man. It's tough.
Don't you dare diminish the great name of Ryan Strome.
Legendary Oiler, Ryan Strome. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to argue with his offensive numbers, but you're right that there is that kind of defensive side of the game where kind of is a little lackluster. But again, he's the best player on the team that has McDavid, so that's pretty tough to argue. But when you think of McKinnon and just the playoff, especially in a playoff run they have, I know this is regular season, but he is that team, man. Like, there is no McDavid on that team. It is him. It's McKinnon, right? Like, he's the guy. And if he's not on, the team loses. Whereas if McDavid isn't on,
clearly shown by like records when he's by the like Colorado's record when McKinnon scores versus when he doesn't. Like they rally around that guy, so he is very valuable to anything they ever get going.
Yeah, I think this one was probably one of the toughest ones because they're just so good. They're both so good.
So also with the Hart Trophy, you'll be a particular fan of this one, but Jacob Markstrom actually got some Hart Trophy votes.
Hey, I believe. My guy. Yeah, I mean, he had a really good season, and he's a UFA, so what a time to have one, right? Going into signing season. Kind of makes me sad that I'm seeing a bunch of articles written by like Canucks beat guys saying that they should move on from Markstrom, just because they don't want to tie up that much money in him. Makes me a sad panda thinking that he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a hard one because they like he's absolutely their MVP, and it's hard just to give up on that right away. But it's also going to be hard to afford him this year because they're not exactly able to spend that much on a goalie, especially when they already have Demko coming up as well.
Yeah,
that they're going to have to either give playing time or money to soon in a couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got a lot of crappy middle six contracts they got to get rid of.
On the topic of goalies here, we'll move over to the Vezina. I'm very happy about this one, that Connor Hellebuck won the Vezina this year.
Well deserved for sure.
Yeah,
had the most shots
in saves and shots faced, and being as good as he was behind the defense that he was on the roster with, like that's just amazing what he did this year. So I'm really glad that the voters, I think this one's voted on by the GM, so I'm really glad that they all kind of saw that and agreed.
Yeah, I think it was his to lose, really. Unless there was some crazy voting.
I was worried that Rask would get it because of his stat line and his win-loss record compared to Hellebuck.
Yeah, I think Hellebuck is probably hopeful that Pietrangelo ends up in Winnipeg with the cap space that they have and the D-line that they have. Maybe if they get that bona fide number one guy, they'll be back in it.
Give him some support.
Yeah.
And I intentionally saved this award for last because I knew you were going to have some comments on this. The Norris Trophy.
Oh, boy.
Roman Josi won the Norris Trophy. This one was the most surprising to me, but I'm going to let you take this one away.
Johnny for Norris, man, he got robbed. I don't know where this came from. Like, the voting was just crazy to me. I don't understand it. Carlson had an insane season as a D-man, and then Josi had a good second half, but I mean, if you're going to give it to an offensive D-man, give it to the guy that did the best. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I'm surprised the votes were as split as they were, because this is another one where Josi actually had like double the first place votes to Carlson. So I'm really surprised that even with all the fanfare that Carlson had around his season, especially because he had such a good start, because like you just mentioned that too, that Josi had the good second half that brought him back into it. But Carlson had such an amazing start. He was getting so much discussion around his campaign, and he was basically the favorite the entire season. And then all of a sudden, Josi kind of rolls in the last couple weeks and takes it.
Yeah, I don't understand it, because if you think about it too, like Josi plays with Ryan Ellis, amazing defenseman. Carlson plays with like Kempny. Like Kempny's still a good D-man, but he split his time with like Kempny and I don't know, probably everybody on the Caps D-line. But Carlson is the guy on a team of like okay defensemen, whereas Yosi's like, the guy on a team of awesome defensemen. So it's just kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of weird to me that Ellis or Josi got it just based on numbers. It feels like it should have gone to Carlson. Just, if you're going with that offensive guy, Carlson did a better job. I don't know. I mean, I guess if the argument is that Yosi's a more complete D-man, sure. Carlson does have some defensive aspects to his game that are, not great.
The voting in the past, like, probably five to 8 years has shown that the defensive question marks aren't always a negating factor for the Norris Trophy.
Yeah. I don't know, man. What was Yosi's stat line?
65 points in 69 games, I believe.
Yeah, and then Carlson had 75.
Yeah, so 10 points is pretty significant. So
yeah, I guess the question mark was maybe Nashville struggled for scoring the first half, whereas the Capitals score a lot more consistently. So it's more impressive that Josi has more like a higher points percentage for his team.
Yeah, Josi led his team in scoring. He had a solid, it was like 15, 20-point lead over Forsberg and whoever else was second, third. Something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to say Yossi doesn't deserve to be up there, but it just doesn't make sense to me. I thought Carlson kind of would have ran away with it.
It doesn't make the Caps fan in you happy.
No, it doesn't. But I'm happy for Yossi. I mean, he's a really good defenseman.
No, honestly, he was bound to get one eventually. I'm just surprised it happened this quickly. Usually, especially with the Norris, it's kind of one of those ones where it's like you're really good for a couple of years and then you win it in like an off year or something. Just as like your reputation award. It happened with like Subban and Doughty and so I'm surprised he got it as quickly as he did.
Yeah, and also for this one, I'm surprised that Seth Jones didn't really get as much respect.
No.
As I thought he would have.
He got the same amount of voting points as Heiskanen and Anthony DeAngelo, and significantly less than Zach Werenski. So it's I think the voters looked at Werenski's stat line and were more impressed by his offensive flair than Jones's defensive solidarity.
Jones getting the same amount of votes as Tony DeAngelo is so disrespectful.
And actually,
I can't believe it.
Technically, DeAngelo beat Jones because DeAngelo beat Jones because Jones had a fourth place. Yeah. So
yeah, it's insane that like this vote, like the voting is so dumb. Like it makes no sense.
That is.
There's so many homers and Tony DeAngelo. Yeah. Like, out of all of the guys on the list, like, if you were to choose a bona fide number one D-man, like, okay, so you got Yossi, Carlson, Hedman, Pietrangelo, Slavin, Theodore, Hamilton, Werenski, Makar, McAvoy, Lindell, DeAngelo, Heiskanen, Jones, Quinn Hughes, blah, 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 blah. I think I would go with Hedman or Jones.
Yeah, I'd be Yossi or Jones. And, I mean, Hedman, too, obviously, is probably like the best all around in the league.
Yeah, like if you're choosing a D-man to build your team, like I want Seth Jones. It's weird that he's that low, but I guess that's just the Columbus factor, right? Like nobody watches
it's a Columbus factor, and it's the like he's not bad offensively. He just doesn't have the flair that others do, like the flair, the prowess that Yossi and Carlson and Hedman have that give them the consideration year in, year out.
I really like as I get like this is not supposed to be like some dumb philosophical moment, but like the older I get, like the more I appreciate like good hockey regardless of if it's on my favorite team or not. And like the way that Columbus plays, like I just wish that more people watched them, and I hope that series against Toronto really kind of opened a lot of people's eyes up to how good of a team they are and how well they play and how many good players are on that team. You know, there's not like any gigantic names on that team. I mean, Jones is probably the biggest, him and Werenski, but you know, they're really fun to watch and they play a really solid game, and it's just sad that some of these smaller market teams that are really good teams just don't get any limelight. And then this ends up happening where Seth Jones gets less votes than Tony DeAngelo.
Less voting points. I think he had more votes, but less points.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that wraps things up for this week here on Clappercast. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to our show on any podcast platform, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. To keep up to date with the latest content, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Clappercast Media or on Twitter at Clappercast. Start the conversation on our post there and let us know how you think the Cup Finals are going so far. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back soon with more hockey talk.